Dr. Andreia. She graduated in bioengineering with a focus on molecular biotechnology in 2012 at University of Porto in Portugal. She then pursued a PhD in the EV field related with communication between immune and stem cells during tissue repair and regeneration. And during this time, she was also a visiting PhD student at the MD Anderson Cancer Center at the University of Texas in the USA. And here, she focused on the mechanisms of cargo loading into EVs during biogenesis. After being granted her PhD in 2018 by University of Porto, Andreia joined AstraZeneca in Sweden as a postdoc fellow, and this is where she's currently exploring the use of EVs for improved delivery of new drug modalities, with a particular interest in nucleic acids delivery. In this session, Andreia will share her personal experience of transitioning from academia into industry, our motivations, and what it is like to do research in an industrial setting. So, Andreia, please have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Please confirm if you can see my slides and if you can hear me well.
Yes, yeah.
Can you see it now in full screen mode? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today in this session, and thank you for your nice introduction as well, Sarah. And I would like to discuss a little bit with you what motivated me to transition from academia into industry while working in the EV field, and also let you know a little bit about how is my work day here at AstraZeneca. So I will actually start by describing a little bit in detail my pathway until I got into AstraZeneca, and then I will talk about how was the process of actually getting into the company and getting this position, describe a little bit what my day looks like doing EV research here at AstraZeneca, and finish by reflecting a little bit on the pros and cons that I find when I compare my work here to when I was working in academia, and give you a little bit of a flavor of what you can expect once you finish a job in a position like this. Before I actually do a deep diving into this, I have some disclosures that I need to do. So what you will hear today reflects my opinion, and it's non-binding in any way to my employer. And my second disclosure has something to do with the bigger problem of generalization. So what you will hear today is a opinion about how it is to work in industry, which might or might not reflect what happens in other companies or in other types of industry. So if I can give you a piece of advice right from the beginning, is that if you are planning into moving into such kind of position, you should talk to as many people as you can before you actually taking that step. So, as Sarah was saying in the beginning, my career research so far, or until 2019, was always based on an academic environment. And my first real contact with an actual research lab was probably in 2012 when I was doing my master's in bioengineering. And by the time I was developing my master thesis in an academic research lab at I3S, a research institute in Porto, in Portugal. And my thesis by the time was dedicated to cell-to-cell communication. And right at the end of the thesis, I was invited to pursue my PhD studies in the same lab. And basically, they consisted of keep working on the same project in cell-to-cell communication in the context of tissue repair and regeneration, but now taking a completely different look into the problem. And the idea was to start looking into extracellular vesicles and mediating this cell-to-cell communication. So this was actually the first time that the EVs appeared in my life. And halfway through this journey, I had the opportunity to join Dr. George Kalin's lab at MD Anderson Cancer Center in the US to study extracellular non-coding RNA. And despite this was still an academic lab, it was within a medical setting. So I think there was a really strong focus on the patients. And I think this was also probably the first time that I realized how different a work environment can be. I obtained my PhD degree by the end of 2018. And by the time I knew what I didn't want to do, but I was not really sure of what I wanted to do next. There were a couple of options that I would like to explore. On the other hand, I had some friends that worked in small biotech companies. And from time to time, it had popped into my head that working in industry or in a company was something that I never really touched even closer. So I kind of started feeling a bit attracted to pursue something in that direction. And that's what led me to join AstraZeneca in 2019, where I'm working today. And I'm working here in the facilities in Gothenburg in Sweden. But how did I actually get into this position? And I must say that social media played a quite crucial role in this. And I need to confess that I found this position for the first time scrolling on Facebook during a very silly lunch break by the end of my PhD. Basically, one member of the team that was working on the team at the time posted the advertisement for this position in the official Facebook page of ISEV. And by coincidence, a few weeks later, I attended ISEV 2018 in Barcelona, and by the time another member of the team was giving a talk exactly like this one, talking about the transition from academia to industry and how is it to work in an industrial setting. And I was quite attracted by what she said by the time. And I had the opportunity as well to talk with a few other members of the team that were at the conference, at that same conference, that were really nice and really good and really engaged me and motivate me further to apply for the position. And of course, there were few other factors that motivated this quite a lot. Of course, this was to me a really exciting project. I was quite motivated as well by the fact that I was going to join a team that would be fully dedicated into doing EV research, which to me was quite new because as I believe might happen with a lot of you, I was actually the first person in my lab during the PhD starting to work with EVs, which sometimes I think felt a little bit lonely along the way. And of course, it mattered as well, the fact that AstraZeneca is a big pharma company that has a very good reputation worldwide. And I thought this would count as quite positive during future career steps that I would like to take on. So I applied for the position, and how the process actually happened was I submitted my application online on the platform that they have dedicated for this. And shortly after that, I got a very short phone call, semi-interview, if you want to name it like that, to prepare my actual first interview. And this interview had two main focus. I was invited to talk about the work that I have been developing so far. So it would have a part that was focused on the science and on my technical skills, and a second part of the interview that was devoted to explore my values and my actions and my behaviors in the lab and in my position in the scientific scenario. And what I got out from this interview by the time, and that I thought I would like to share with you today, was that for the first time in my life, I realized that actually knowing the history, the mission, and the core values of the company that you are trying to apply to, it's actually an extremely important thing to do. These are just not nice texts that we can watch on companies' websites just to be that they have there just to be political correct. These are actually the values that underlie all the activities that the company does. And in this way, whenever you are preparing for such kind of interview, you need to project yourself into these values and try to understand what are your behaviors that align with these values and missions of the company. Then I think you need to think as well what you bring that is different and better for the pool of knowledge and people that the company has already available, and how can you contribute to a more thriving work environment. And along this, you also need to understand very well what's the job role that you are applying to and what are the implications that this will have on your day-to-day work, and also on the implications that will have for your future career. At this step, you should expect that you will be asked already for some perspectives on where do you see yourself after this position, after this first position that you are getting into the company. And you are expected to bring questions as well. And something that I was quite interested to see by the time was that they were not expecting just only scientific questions, but questions very much related with the practical issues of actually starting the new job. And of course, this might be very much related with the Swedish culture, but they do really have an interest in making you happy, because if you are a happy person in what you are doing, you will be doing your job much better. After this first interview, I was invited to visit the facilities and to get to know the actual job proposal that the company was doing. And the whole process in my case took about 4 to 5 months from the first time that I clicked to submit my application until I actually got the final job proposal. So this was the time for the big decisions, right? Should I take the job or not? And what really led me to say yes to the job was the bursting of a bubble of preconceived ideas that I realized from the very first beginning. There was just misconceptions on my head. I think when you are on the other side, we always have this idea that, oh, industry, it's going to be a super confidential environment. I won't be able to publish any of my work. I won't be able to attend any conference and to talk with anyone about this. And this is completely the opposite. At least my experience so far has nothing to do with this. The group started in 2015, and so far we are on our 6th paper being published. We have another one under review. We have been presenting at several conferences, and it's possible that you came across with several members of the team in previous ISF meetings as well. Another preconceived idea that I had by the time was that all the activities in the company are profit-driven, and at the end of the day, I will need to deliver a commercial pharmaceutical product. And this is actually not how the reality happens here every day. What's behind all the activities of the company are actually putting patients first and having a strong scientific validation and support for all the activities that we develop. And another misconception that I had was that after I have such kind of position, I would barely be able to do something else differently. And I understood by the time that this was actually not the reality either. Before I move forward a little bit into explaining how my day usually looks like, I just want to make a brief parenthesis to tell you a little bit about who is AstraZeneca, and so that you can understand a little bit the wider context that I'm in. So as I was telling you before, the values of the company are crucial for all the activities that the company develops. And at AstraZeneca, we follow the science, and we are highly entrepreneurial to deliver medicines to patients. So putting patients first is something that is underlying all the activities that we do. And this is behind a strategy where we play to win, to always have the best interest of our patients into account. And at all steps of the way, we always promote a lot, doing all the right moves and all the right things at all the steps that we do. AstraZeneca is a big pharmaceutical company spread worldwide. It invests a lot in R&D, which is focused in 3 main sites across the globe, in the US, UK, and here in Sweden, in Gothenburg. But the company doesn't start and finish in itself. It is actually part of a much wider collaboration network with hundreds of collaborations with universities and institutions across the world. When I joined the company, I joined to a particular and specific position, which was in the scope of the postdoc program that the company develops and that is running for 10 years now. I pasted here the link if you want to get more details and look for possible available positions as well. But basically, when you join this postdoc program, you have an internal supervisor, but you don't lose your attachment to academia completely because you will still have an academic supervisor. And when you join the company, your postdoc project either will integrate projects that are already part of AstraZeneca main pipeline, or you will start a new project in new fields of science that are exciting for the company. And the program really has a strong focus on establishing a strong scientific reputation for the program itself and for the company itself, but also for yourself. So it's a really good opportunity to grow and to develop as a scientist. And here you have some pictures of the team at different stages of development. And as I was telling you, when I joined Astra, I joined a specific postdoc project within the extracellular vesicles team running here at AstraZeneca, which for the company is an exploratory field. So it's not part of the main pipeline of the projects in the main pipeline of the company, okay? Our work is focused mainly on EV engineering with therapeutical purposes. And at the moment, we work mostly at the preclinical phase. And my workday doesn't actually look that different from my workday in academia. I still plan and do my experiments, collect the data, analyze the data, report the data to my supervisors. But I think something that was a bit different is that you really need to establish internal and external collaborations to develop your project. And this really pushes your network capability. I spend a lot of time attending meetings as well, and this is probably not such a good part. While in academia, you probably have your team meetings or maybe your department meeting. Here, you need to think that the organization is much more complex. There's much more levels. So you actually end up spending much more time in team meetings, department meetings, function meetings, which can be local or part of the global organization. So the way that it works is slightly different. I still invest time in doing manuscript writing and prepare for conferences. And you have the possibility to supervise students as well. Of course, the teaching component is not as strong as if you were in an academic lab, but this opportunity still exists if it's something that you still would like to pursue. And I think one of the biggest advantages compared to an academic lab is that at the end of the day, you don't really need to worry about funding for yourself and for your projects because the company guarantees this. Of course, you are encouraged to do that, particularly if you want to explore new things. But in the end of the day, it's not really something that needs to be in the back of your mind all the time at every step that you take. So I'm at this position now for my 3rd year, and it's a kind of a good position to reflect back and think what are the things that to me are the pros and cons of having made this transition from an academic setting into an industry setting. And into my pros list goes definitely the fact that this is a truly collaborative teamwork environment. So if you are the kind of person that really likes to have control of every aspect of the project and work more on your own, probably this won't be a work environment where we will thrive the most, because you definitely need to be a team player and to have a great team spirit. This is a very fast-paced, dynamic, and efficient work environment, which I think contributes for your project to develop much faster. And you need to think that you are within a huge multidisciplinary network of knowledge and technical skills that are at reach just across your desk. And you are exposed every day to cutting-edge science and innovative ways of working, innovative methodologies and techniques. So it's up to you to soak in as much as you want into your own projects, okay? of course, and particularly if your project is within the main pipeline of the company, you have access to state-of-the-art equipment and techniques, which is also super advantageous to have in a cutting-edge project. And you are actually part of a very open scientific environment where publishing and advertising the work that we do here is actually promoted and very encouraged. And you are also encouraged to establish your network of collaborations, not only internally, but particularly with external collaborators that you can benefit and that you both can mutually benefit from the relationship, right? You are allowed project independency. You can decide together with your line manager the ways to move forward with your project, and you are actually encouraged to propose new projects and new ideas that you would like to pursue, and very often you are allowed to move forward with this. So it's not like they are just cutting your wings, so to speak, when you work in such a position in the industry. And another thing that I like very much about this kind of position is that you really notice that the company worries about the person behind the job. And this means that I really feel that employees are very much valued by the company. And they really invest on the personal development of everyone, on the development of your knowledge and of your skills. And you actually find yourself within an environment where you are in a healthy competition with your co-workers. And you can have, for instance, annual rankings based on your annual performance. And we have award exchange programs. So this is really motivating on your daily day. I really like the fact that the company is all about diversity. And when I say diversity, it's just not racial or ethnical diversity, it's also thought diversity. And this means that everyone has the right to speak up and that everyone has a voice that deserves to be heard. And this is very much related to the fact that I think this is a very inclusive and non-hierarchical work environment. Very often in academia, you see the figure of a PI and the collaborators under the power of the PI, and that's how the relationship develops. But that's not how I feel about working at AstraZeneca. I really feel that I have a one-to-one relationship with my peers and with my supervisors, so everyone is treated the same and the opinion of everyone is valued the same. And I think another very important thing is the company worries and invests on the well-being of the employees and values a lot work-life balance. Then again, this might be very much linked to the Swedish culture. It might be different in other countries, but I really think that the company puts an effort to make people happy and to feel happy in the job that they do, because at the end of the day, they will do a better job if they are well. On the other hand, there's few points that I don't like so much about this position. And if on one hand, you have some independence on your project, at the end of the day, it needs to be aligned with the priorities of the company. And if the company decides that something is not priority anymore, this might impact a lot the work that you are doing, and it's out of your reach and out of your control. I think there's a little bit of added bureaucracy to all the activities that you follow, namely in terms of a little bit of more rigid rules in terms of licensing and patenting. For instance, if you have a friend at a certain university that has a reagent that you think, oh, this would be really cool to my project, you cannot just ship it in and use it in your project. Now you need to have MTAs. If you have an external collaboration, you need probably to have CDA. So everything has a little bit more of bureaucracy added to that to make sure that intellectual property is protected both ways, not only for the company, but also for the partner that the company is interacting with or that you are interacting with. It has the downside that usually the access to knowledge and resources are actually slightly or a lot sometimes expensive if you come from industry compared to academia. And you can easily see that, for instance, in fees for conferences, in software licensing, and so on. The other thing that sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming and can be a little bit of a disadvantage is this complex organizational structure and the fact that the company is spread so much worldwide, because now you really need to work on your networking capabilities and really have a proactive networking with your colleagues, because the communication lines can very easily become way more complex than they would normally in an academic setting. And as I already mentioned, you have much more meetings to attend, many of them, for instance, much more towards the management part of the team, of the activity and of the teams, which might not be something so much of your interest. But on the other hand, if this is something that you want to pursue, if you are aiming for more leadership positions, then you are in the right place to start learning with your senior peers what to do and how to move forward to those kind of positions. And the fact that we are joining, or that I joined in particular, a postdoc program or a postdoc project within the program that explores a new field of science. Usually the way that I develop my activities are not really within the whole machinery that the company usually operates in their main pipeline. And so sometimes you might feel a little bit aside in some things because you are not really, engaged in the whole functioning that the company has behind the scenes. So from this, you can already understand that if you join the company in other kinds of positions, which you can, as soon as you have your PhD, you can definitely go directly or get into the company at entry-level positions. You don't necessarily need to pursue a postdoc to be accepted into a company position. And when you get those kind of positions, usually you will be working directly in projects in the main pipeline, and then you won't be doing all the details, every single detail of your project. Then you will join a really big multidisciplinary team where there will be an expert that will do every single part of the project that they are responsible to. So in the end, the whole project is much more efficient because you have an expert dealing exactly with what you need, right? So the whole process is much more efficient and productive. And we can discuss a little bit later on if you are interested in knowing more details of this kind of position as opposed to a postdoc position. Yeah, so as you could see from my pros and cons list, my pros definitely outweigh the cons. And I'm really happy that I've made this decision of moving from academia into industry. And it's something that I'm really enjoying the journey so far. And I really feel that I grew a lot scientifically, but also in the interaction with my colleagues. And after this position, this kind of position, you can actually expect to move into a variety of different jobs. And I actually picked up the actual examples from people that left the team already in the meantime. And you can see, for instance, the example of Elisa that secured an internal position in another function of the company, working in really exciting projects on advanced drug delivery. But on the other hand, you can take the example of Nikki and Shabi that decided to move back into academia, with Nikki pursuing another postdoc, but with Shabi actually starting his own group. So, the scientific build-up and reputation that you build up while you are here, it's definitely valued when you try to go back to academia. And then you can take the example of Olga that moved to another pharmaceutical company where she enrolled in a more in a position with higher leadership responsibility. So she's moving up the ladder in the industry, the career ladder in the industry environment, if you will. So with this, I would like just to make it even more clear to all of you from our network of external collaborators that indeed we are very open to the environment, the scientific environment out there, not only through our scientific supervisors in academia, but with other collaborators that we have worldwide. At the moment, we are a team of 4 people led by Nick Decker, but I leave here also the names of previous, former members in the team, and I'm sure that you can reach them in the different social media very easily, and I'm sure they will be very happy to talk to you about their experience at AstraZeneca as well. If you are interested in knowing more details about the specific postdoc project at AstraZeneca, you can go to the link that I showed you before, but you can also contact Hadley Clooney. She's the manager of our program, and she will be more than happy to have a longer chat about every specific question and details that you want to. And of course, you can reach me by any means here if you feel that there's something that we won't be talking about today that you would like to know in more detail. I'm more than happy to talk to you at any time. So thank you all for joining, and I would like to thank as well the SNEV organizing committee for such a great opportunity, and this was really funny for me to prepare as well, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Your talk was amazing, really a lot to take in and maybe break some myths that are surrounding industry.
Yeah,
we now
exactly.
have like a little bit of time. I'm going to ask a few questions that people posted in the chat, and I also have a few questions myself. Stefania asked, I was wondering about the transition part in which it might be difficult to convince the company that even if you did a PhD in academia, you can still develop the industry focus profile. What are the skills that you can develop in academia that can still be valuable in the company?
Yeah, I think I also had that kind of thinking before I'm moving back before I'm moving here. After I moved, I realized that, you know, the company does not necessarily see people coming from academia as not so interesting assets, because on the other hand, you can think that you are coming from very specific environments that you can contribute with very specific knowledge into specific job roles that you are applying to, and basically they see every new people coming in as new heat and a potential for new ideas and new ways of working. So they do not necessarily see you as a not so interesting asset, even if you don't have any industry experience before. But in terms of skill sets that you can develop, I think what you need to do the most is to look, do your research about the kind of companies that you would like to work in, really read through their values and, explore and try to understand exactly what do they mean in your daily work. Try to translate those nice texts into, okay, if I need to follow these on my daily work, what it's going to look like, what do I do that reflects this value? And these kind of companies, pharma companies, biotech companies, there's some core values that they all share in common. So I think you should read through them, try to realize really what do they mean and what are you doing that aligns with those values. But then there's always these general skills that will definitely be good for you wherever you go. And if I need to name some, that would be networking. I think that's absolutely important. And the more proactive that you are, the better. Being innovative, having ways of thinking outside the box, and be a good team player and really have the spirit. Okay, it's your project, but if everybody works for that project, everybody will benefit from it in the end. Yeah, even if it's something that it's not really just your task to do. Having really this team vision really helps a lot to engage you in what's the company environment, I think, in a much more broad sense than you usually have in academia, I think.
We have two questions that I'm going to combine. Carlos asked what kind of profile AstraZeneca is looking for a postdoc, but you kind of already answered that, like which kind of background could help you get into AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
And Shima, she asked is it true that after doing 1-2 postdocs, you have less chance of joining industry, if that does make a difference?
Well, I'm trying to dig now in my files from all the people that I know. I know a few people that came to a postdoc position that had done postdocs before, at least one postdoc, and in their case, that was not an impairing factor to be brought into the company. So from the top of my head, my head, my first answer would be not necessarily. I think in the end, and you still see even more senior people coming into academia, into more senior positions as well, right? You can definitely have people that were PIs in academia coming to leadership positions in the team as well, and basically they had all their lives or a very big important part of their lives developed in academia, and still they are taken in by the companies. I think in the end, it all comes down to what are your skill sets and what is your way of positioning in science and viewing science and doing science. And yeah, if you have these factors that I mentioned before, you will definitely have a good profile, potentially interesting to join the company. And just to elaborate a little bit more, if you ask that same question, what is the profile that Astra is looking for a postdoc, to Hadley Kunle, the manager of the program, she will answer you exactly the same. There's not a profile, there's a set of skills that are preferentially, but they don't have like a fixed structure for what they are looking for.
Thank you. Another question from Tom is, if you have your own research team, example, if you have a couple of techs that help you, if you have a senior scientist which you are reporting to, like how is your team structured?
Yeah, so as I was telling you, in my case, it's a little bit different because the project is not in the main pipeline. So basically, the current structure of the team is 3 postdocs that basically have projects that are complementary to each other. And we have at the moment a graduate student from a graduate program internal in the company. And in our case, we do all of our work ourselves. So like we don't have technicians helping us doing the work that we need to do, the experimental work. In our case, it needs to be us that will develop that. But as I was telling you, if you go into a project that is within the main pipeline of the company, then the structure is very different. And then, yes, you basically have you have a project and you have teams that will be responsible to develop reagents for the project, teams that will be responsible to develop assays to test those reagents. You have people that will test the new drugs that the company is synthesizing. You will have people that will do more technical activities. You will have, let's say, leads within the project that will be responsible to make everyone in the team communicate with each other and know what is ready and when is ready, and people that will communicate from that team to the higher leadership team as well. So there, the structure is much more complex and you can take a much more diverse type of roles, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Now I have a question from a master student. Ghazal, she asks, I would like to ask, if a master student, how can I join the company and which kind of position could she fit? Should I start with an internship or just straightly get hired?
Yeah, so from my experience since I joined the company, it's not so common that you see people being hired right directly from the master's. Usually, I think the most common is after the PhD or while you are finishing your PhD. But I think in this particular case, a very good opportunity is to join the graduate program of the company. If you follow the link that I showed before for the postdoc, you will be able to find very easily the links for the graduate program. And basically, this consists of rotations in different labs and that you choose yourself. It's not pre-imposed in any way. So you can basically do a rotation around the company, contribute to different projects, understand what it is that you like the most, because there's something that I didn't focus a lot, but here you basically have all the pipeline from going from the synthesis of the first molecule, if you talk about the small molecule drug project, to the part that this molecule will be actually trialed in clinical trials, right? And you can do a rotation as a graduate student at any step of the way. It doesn't necessarily need to be in lab-based positions. You can definitely go help someone planning a clinical trial, for instance. So my advice would be try these programs first, because they definitely give you lots of experience in the industrial setting, and I think it makes it very easy for you to enter the company. And after you are in, you can also do a PhD with the company. In the current structure of the systems, at least in Europe, you always need a counterpart academic institution that gives you the degree, but there's a lot of examples around of people that are doing their PhD mixed between the industry, the company, and an academical partner.
Yeah, and I think some companies have like a lot of summer like internship programs, or you can just go like 2 or 3 months. So that's always a nice thing to look for as well.
Exactly. That's not so common at Astra, but definitely just keep an eye and look for opportunities. Yeah.
So Carolina asks, like, do you think that joining this kind of company when you work in RD will it still be stimulating, like, because you did mention RD and postdoc are different. Do you think that after your postdoc, if you go to RD, will this still be stimulating, or which kind of position within the company you think is more similar to the work that you did as a postdoc?
Yeah, so I don't think it's related with the position. I think it's more related with the kind of job within the same position that you join. And let me clarify this. I can give you, like, my most immediate examples are from the function that I belong to, which is Discovery Sciences, which is mainly dedicated to the development of methodologies, reagents, molecules. So you can expect that if you join such job role in this function, you will probably be doing maybe more repetitive work. Maybe you won't be so excited in some days because, yeah, you will need to deliver something to the project and to the portfolio that will be the exactly same experiment that you did for 10 other molecules the week before. But on the other hand, if you join the exactly same type of position, but in one of the therapeutical areas that Astra is focusing on, you will probably be much more engaged in discovering or looking for new targets for the treatment disease. And I would see myself much more excited in those kind of positions. So, you know, in the end, it all depends on your own interests and likes and dislikes. And it's not really related to the type of position, but more to what function you go to. So that's why I said that when you have your job interview, I think it's really important that you try to understand and ask as much as you can what's going to be your actual job role on a day-to-day basis, so that you can understand if it's something that would motivate you and interest you a long time, or if it's something that maybe further down the road will be a little bit not so exciting.
Oh, thank you. So Christopher asked, could you compare the stress pressure levels between industry and academia? Like, do you have strict deadlines, demands? Are you expecting to deliver more in industry, or it's like freedom, trial and error, or would you get fired like super easily?
No, definitely not. If you fail at something in the project, or the project fails because it fails, right? We all know how science works. You won't be fired, definitely, for sure. You just need to show that you actually did the experiments and it didn't work the way you expected. So in terms of pressure compared to academia, I think it's more or less the same. I think it depends a lot. I think it depends more on the cultural environment that you are in, rather than if it's academia or industry. Because in my case, I can compare, for instance, the Portuguese scientific academic environment to the US academic environment. And of course, the US, it's really fast-paced, as we all know. So I find it here maybe something in between those two environments. But yeah, of course, you do feel pressure. And sometimes, you know, when you do drug development or drug discovery projects, the progression of your drug throughout the pipeline depends if you achieve certain goals within certain timelines, and these are defined. So the fact that you don't get some results until day X might mean that your drug won't actually be further down the road in the development process during the next months. And that's something that you don't want, and the company doesn't want, because you are basically losing money, right? Setting back the project. So there's definitely deadlines that you need to meet. I also feel that in my project, I still have deadlines that I need to meet, because also the postdoc program is intended to be a 3-year program. So, you know, it's not like you are here for all your life, endless and endless. In the end, I think the pressure comes a little bit of who you are and how you do your scientific work.
Yeah. Thank you. So now another question. We still have like 5 minutes. I will try to fit a few more questions. Tama, she asks if you know about ongoing travel fellowships where a PhD student could apply for a few months to get like a good training on an industrial setup.
Yeah, so as I was telling during the talk, we have lots of collaborations with academical partners, and this would definitely be the easiest way to do that, I believe. Reaching out to the people within the company, showing that I have something of interest that I would like to explore. I would like to develop this project with you, and that can definitely happen. And we had an example like that very recently in our team. Last year, we had a visiting student doing some work on EV engineering that resulted from a collaboration with academic partner. In terms of funding, of course, the company, because this is not a dedicated program within the company, you probably would need to look for external funding for this, but there's several opportunities, at least at the European level, that you can apply to fund your internship. But that being said, that doesn't mean that it's completely impossible that you have that you don't have funding from the company that you are applying to. It depends a little bit on the way that the companies operate, and this will depend a little bit from company to company. But I would say that the easiest way is definitely to try to establish an industry academic collaboration. And then again, don't be afraid to reach out, because I think when you are on the other side, you think, oh no, I'm never going to send an email to that person because they will never reply. And I actually found it the other way around. Every single email that I send within here, I don't think I ever was missing an answer, even if I was emailing someone really high up in the leadership ladder that you would expect. This person is so busy that won't reply me even in 1 month, and I get a reply 1 hour after. So, it's a really efficient environment, I think.
That's nice to know that at least we can send and we'll get some feedback.
Yeah, it's not lost.
I do have a question that I will ask you to try to answer really quick, but my question is, you mentioned that you still publish papers. There's still like the publishing. Yeah. First, do you think there's more pressure, less pressure for you to publish? And then, do you think that the paper that comes from an industry will be looked on like, oh, this comes from industry, this is probably like sponsor, they are like doing their own thing, this is not like real research that I can trust? Or do you think there's like, that problem is no longer a thing and people actually take research that comes from industry with the same level and same honesty that the one that comes from academia?
Yeah, so it very quickly, no, there's not more or less pressure than academia. I think it's the same, and then again, it depends on who you are and how you operate with your team. You maybe don't have the pressure of, I need to have a paper because I need to write a grant to have funding. So that's probably the pressure that you don't have here. In terms of how people look at these papers or at this work that is, exposed in conferences or whatsoever, I haven't felt the particular case that you mentioned. I always felt that the work that we are doing is being quite well received, and we are being looked, I believe, at the same level as our peers in an academic setting. I can also give you the other perspective, the way that I look for papers that other people are doing in industry, right? And I see them with as much interest and scientific soundness as I would look for an academic paper. And there's a tweak to it that you can think that probably as a very big established company, if you publish something that you are not sure of, that doesn't have a sound scientific background, the loss for your company will be actually much bigger than if you are in an academic lab, right? So when something goes out, you are really sure of what you are publishing within the knowledge that you have available. I'm not saying that whatever we publish, it's set in stone knowledge. We know this doesn't work like that, but we do have a strong scientific core behind everything that we do, and we base all our decisions in strong scientific evidence. So yeah, I don't see that as less quality papers or work in general.
Oh, that was great, Andreia. Thank you so much. I think everyone really enjoyed it. Someone said in the chat that you might have a lot of applications for postdoc tonight. So that's good. Thank you so much. We will now have our next section. We will launch the poll. It's our last poll.